Well, as more people get their vaccines and storefronts reopen, do customers have the right to know if a business's employees are fully vaccinated? With the answer to this question and more, we're joined by Nainesh Kotak, personal injury lawyer and the founder of Kotak Personal Injury Law in Toronto. Nainesh, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me, Ben.
Okay, brass tacks, do I, as an individual, do I have the right to know if a business's employees are vaccinated?
Absolutely. We're going to see quite a few changes, I think, in the way businesses run, the way recreational venues are run in the post-COVID world. And I think it's going to be a matter of consumer choice, where consumers will shop around and have certainly the right to, particularly when we're dealing with healthcare, quasi-healthcare services such as massage, chiropractic. I think you're going to see consumers asking these questions, and what would have been really a privacy issue in the past now, I think will certainly become the norm. And it could work the other way in terms of certain businesses asking their consumers, are they vaccinated as well, I suspect.
Well, if a business's employees are not vaccinated, then can they be held liable if I get sick?
Right. So Bill 218 was introduced last fall, which provides comprehensive protections to businesses to prove and to have liability against a business. If there's a COVID contracted by a consumer, you would have to prove that they were what's called grossly negligent, which is very hard to prove, and that they didn't act in good faith, which is really an honest belief that they were acting okay, quite frankly. However, that legislation does not apply to employees. So there is the potential that if an employer doesn't have a vaccination policy, and one of the employees catches COVID or carries it to its family as a result of other employees having COVID, they would not have the protection of Bill 218, and a regular negligence test, so to speak, would apply. So in that context, I do see potential liability. There are exemptions to this, Ben, human rights considerations, of course. If an employee has a medical condition that really, because of which they cannot be vaccinated, that mandated policy, if there is one, wouldn't apply, and also on religious grounds, although I'm not aware of any religions, quite frankly, that would prohibit vaccinations.
Nainesh, there's a lot of ground to cover between employees not being vaccinated and me getting sick and being able to prove that there's a link between them. You say that there are 4 elements that you need to establish to make that liability link. What are those 4 things?
Yeah, so let's assume that we don't have an application of Bill 218, right? Because that changes the ball game, and it's an issue of one employee catching from another, for example. Well, they've got to show a duty of care, which there obviously is on the employer. They've got to show a breach of that duty of care, and that was negligent. And as a result of that, negligent damages were caused. That is where the difficulty may arise in proving, in fact, that the person caught COVID in the manner that they're describing, because as we know, this disease spreads pretty quickly, and it may be difficult in that sense for one employee to prove that the employer was negligent, but it's not certainly impossible for sure.
Nainesh Kotak, it's going to be a brave new world. We know that, and we appreciate your time laying that out for us.
Thank you so much for having me.